They say what happens in a hotel room stays there. But sometimes, it follows you home, wearing the scent of someone else's skin. The first thing Tonia noticed wasn't the gold chandelier or the cold marble floor. It was the silence. That heavy, judging kind of silence that makes you feel like even the walls know your sins. She dropped her suitcase by the door and exhaled. For the first time in months, there was no husband shouting, no phone buzzing, no tears to hide. Just the sound of rain kissing the window. She removed her wedding ring and placed it on the nightstand like a confession. Just one weekend, she whispered to herself. One weekend to forget. Downstairs, the hotel bar glowed with soft amber lights. Men in suits, women in perfume. And there, sitting alone at the far end, was him.
Dare.
Tall, dark, easy smile, the kind of man who didn't need to try too hard. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, revealing veins like lightning across his forearms. He looked up when she walked in, not like a man who noticed beauty, but like one who recognized pain. "Mind if I sit?" she asked, surprised by her own boldness. He smiled. "You already are." His voice, deep, calm, playful, slid into her ears like temptation dressed in Lagos accent. They talked. About random things. About work.
About life.
She laughed for the first time in weeks, and even she was shocked by how light her voice sounded. Then, the power blinked for a second. Lightning cut across the sky. Thunder rolled, and he looked at her like a man who'd been waiting for that very moment. "You look like someone who came here to disappear," he said quietly. "And you," she replied, "look like someone I should stay away from." He smirked. "Then why aren't you?" Her lips parted, but words refused to come. Instead, she stared at the drops of rain sliding down the glass, two at first, then merging into one. Later, when she returned to room 407, she still felt his gaze burning through her back like warm breath. She told herself she'd never see him again. But as she undressed and slipped beneath the hotel sheets, she found herself smiling. And for reasons she couldn't explain, she left the lights on. Because maybe, just maybe, she wanted the night to see what forgetting looked like. Tonia didn't plan to see him again. Lagos was big enough, and hotels were meant for strangers. But fate had its own sense of humor. That evening, she walked into the rooftop restaurant, her black dress hugging her body like a secret she wasn't ready to tell. She just wanted peace, good food, a quiet table, maybe a glass of wine to drown the echoes of her husband's voice that still lived in her head. "Table for one," she told the hostess. The woman smiled politely. "Right this way, ma'am." But when Tonia reached her seat, there he was, Dare, already sitting at the same table, a half-smile playing on his lips and a menu in hand. "I think there's been a mix-up," she said, flustered. "Maybe," he replied, voice smooth as dark rum. "Or maybe the universe just doesn't like us eating alone." She wanted to roll her eyes. Instead, she laughed. A real one. They decided to share the table just for the night. The waiter poured wine, the city lights shimmered below, and somewhere between grilled prawns and confessions, she forgot she was married. He asked about her work. She asked why a man like him was dining alone. He said, "I'm in between stories." She didn't understand what that meant, but it sounded poetic enough to keep her curious. Halfway through dinner, she reached for the wine bottle just as he did. Their fingers brushed. Electricity. She pulled back, embarrassed. The bottle tilted, and red wine spilled down her chest, blooming across her dress like a dark flower. "Oh my God," she gasped, reaching for a napkin. "Wait," he said, gently catching her wrist. His touch was warm, steady. "You'll make it worse." His napkin grazed her collarbone as he dabbed carefully, eyes refusing to stray lower but failing miserably. She felt every heartbeat echo in the silence between them. When he finally looked up, their faces were too close. Her breath caught. His lips hovered, not touching, just daring. "Sorry," he murmured. "For what?" she whispered. "For wanting to." The waiter's sudden return broke the spell. She pushed back her chair, heart racing. "Good night, Mr. Dare." He smiled slowly. "Room 407, right? You forgot your ring." Her world froze. The ring she thought she'd hidden. The lie she thought she'd buried. He slid it across the table like a challenge. Don't worry. I won't tell anyone you're trying to forget. And as she walked away, her heels echoed one truth she couldn't deny. She didn't want to forget anymore. The next evening, the rain returned, soft, teasing, like it remembered what happened last night and wanted to see more. Tonia tried to focus on her laptop, but the words on her screen blurred into thoughts of him. That voice. Those hands. That near kiss, she couldn't stop replaying. She closed the lid, cursed under her breath, and grabbed her purse. Maybe a walk through the lobby would help. The elevator doors opened with a gentle ding. She stepped in alone, or so she thought. Hold the door. A familiar voice called. Her pulse skipped. Him. Dare slipped inside just before the doors closed, rain glistening on his skin. The small space suddenly felt too small, too charged. He smelled of rain, whiskey, and something dangerously male. Long day, he asked. Trying to make it longer by talking to me? She shot back. He chuckled. You don't really want me to stop. She turned away, pretending to be unbothered.
Floor 4, she said.
He pressed 5. But the elevator stuttered halfway. Lights flickered, and it stopped cold between floors.
She gasped.
What's happening? Power glitch, he said calmly. Don't panic. Easy for you to say. You're not trapped in a box with, she stopped herself. With who? His voice lowered, deep and teasing. Her heartbeat was loud enough to replace the hum of the engine. The emergency light bathed the space in gold, soft against her skin. He took a slow step toward her. You've been running from something, haven't you? Her back met the wall. I'm not running. Then why are you shaking? I'm not, she started, but his hand brushed a strand of hair from her face, and her words melted. There was a silence, thick and dangerous. His thumb grazed her chin, lifted it gently until their eyes met. Tell me to stop, he whispered. She didn't. The air between them snapped. His mouth found hers. Warm, commanding, hungry. She gasped into the kiss, clutching his shirt like she'd been waiting years to breathe again. The elevator hummed back to life, but neither moved. When the doors finally opened on the 5th floor, they stood there, lips swollen, hearts racing. I think this is your stop, he murmured. But she didn't step out. She only said, breathless, no. I think I missed it. The doors closed again, sealing them inside the moment neither of them could undo. They didn't speak as they stepped into room 407. The sound of the rain outside filled the silence between them, rhythmic, daring, almost like applause for sins about to unfold. Tonia's heart thudded in her chest as Dare closed the door behind them. No words, just eyes, two storms colliding in the half-light. He reached out, tracing a finger along her jaw. Tell me to leave, he whispered. She shook her head slowly. Then stay. And that was all it took. The kiss came soft, then wild, like fire learning to breathe. Her back hit the wall, his hands found her waist. Her dress slipped down her shoulders with an unspoken invitation. He kissed her neck, her collarbone, the space where her pulse betrayed her. Every touch felt forbidden yet painfully familiar, as though their bodies had met somewhere in another lifetime. She tried to remember who she was, the wife, the professional, the woman with responsibilities, but his mouth erased all titles, leaving only the woman who had longed to be wanted. Dare, she moaned his name like a secret that tasted too good to keep. He lifted her gently, carrying her to the bed. The sheets were cool, the air warm, the tension electric. When he entered her, it wasn't rough, it was desperate. Each movement a confession, each gasp a prayer. Her fingers clawed his back, his breath tangled with hers. For once, she wasn't thinking of what she'd lose, only what she'd finally found. Minutes blurred into hours. The city outside forgot to breathe. Somewhere between pleasure and peace, she realized she hadn't felt alive in years. When the storm softened, they lay still. She rested her head on his chest, listening to the slow rhythm of his heart. He brushed her hair aside. You keep running from something, he murmured. But whatever it is, it's not here. Her eyes burned. You don't know me. He smiled faintly. Not yet. She closed her eyes, pretending not to hear the word yet. Because deep down, she knew this wasn't just a night. It was the beginning of something she couldn't name. Morning would come with light, guilt, and questions. But for now, she wanted to drown in the warmth of his arms and the lie that this could last forever. Morning crept in gently, but guilt arrived like thunder. Tonia woke to the scent of coffee and the sound of a knock. She blinked, disoriented, remembering the night, the touch, the breath, the whispers that still clung to her skin. Dare sat by the window, shirtless, calm, watching the sunrise as if sin could be washed away by daylight. Room service, the voice at the door called. Her panic rose. You ordered breakfast? She hissed. He smiled. You skipped dinner. Dare, I can't. But it was too late. The waiter entered, tray trembling slightly at the sight of her barely covered in the hotel robe. 2 cups, 2 plates, 1 bed. The truth hung in the air like perfume. When the door shut again, she crossed her arms, glaring. You shouldn't have done that. He leaned back lazily. Shouldn't or didn't want me to? Both, she said, voice shaky. Last night was a mistake. He studied her quietly. Then, why does it feel like the first honest thing you've done in a while? The question stabbed. Because he was right. Because every breath with him felt real, terrifyingly real. She turned away. You don't understand. He stood, closing the distance between them. Then help me. Her eyes met his, wet and conflicted. I'm married, Dare. I know. His tone was calm, not surprised. I saw the ring the first night. I just wanted to see if you'd wear it again. Her lips parted. And if I did? He shrugged. Then I'd still be here. She looked at him, at his scars, his calm, his maddening patience, and something inside her broke open. You make it sound so easy. It's not easy, he said softly. It's just true. He cupped her cheek, and for a fleeting second, she leaned in, then pulled away, shaking her head. I can't afford the truth right now. He smiled faintly. Then lie beautifully. She laughed, tears breaking through. You don't make sense. Neither do you, he said, pressing his forehead to hers. That's why we met. The room fell silent again, save for the hum of the air conditioner and the quiet war between what they wanted and what they should do. When she finally left that afternoon, she didn't say goodbye. But on the tray by the bed, beside the untouched pancakes, she left her wedding ring, gleaming like a confession she no longer wanted to hide. The hotel lobby was brighter than usual, the kind of morning light that exposed everything. Tonia stood at the counter, signing her checkout form with trembling hands. The pen felt heavier than it should. Her phone buzzed nonstop, missed calls, messages, reminders from the life she was running from. Ma'am, will you be needing a driver? The receptionist asked. She forced a smile.
No.
I'll find my way. Behind her, she could feel him before she saw him. Dare. Calm, composed, that same quiet strength that made her walls crumble. He walked toward her, holding something in his hand. Her ring. You left this, he said softly. She turned, eyes searching his face. Maybe it was meant to stay there. He studied her like a puzzle he didn't want to solve. You don't seem like the kind of woman who runs without leaving a note. Maybe I just didn't want to explain something even I don't understand. They stood there, 2 people trying to pretend the night before was an accident. But their eyes told another story. Come with me, he said suddenly. She blinked. What? Lunch. Or silence. Whatever you want. Just don't end it at a lobby goodbye. She hesitated. Every rational thought screamed no. But her body remembered yes. And her heart, her poor, restless heart, whispered just one more time. Minutes later, they sat in his car, Lagos streets humming around them. He drove without music, without questions. Then he parked at a quiet spot overlooking the water. Why me, Dare? She asked finally. Why get involved with a woman who clearly belongs to someone else? He laughed under his breath. Maybe because I know what it feels like to belong to someone who forgot I existed. Her gaze softened. You were married? He nodded slowly.
Was.
She died 2 years ago. Hotel fire in this same building. Her chest tightened. Oh God. He looked out the window, voice low. They said it started in room 407. The air froze. Her room. I rebuilt this hotel, he continued, room by room. I come here every year, same weekend, same date, to remember her. Tonia's breath hitched. And this weekend? He turned to her. You reminded me what being alive feels like. Tears welled in her eyes. The truth cut through her like lightning. She hadn't just slept with a stranger. She'd woken the ghost of his grief. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Then don't say anything. He reached out, brushing her hand lightly. Some stories aren't meant to end, they just change shape. She swallowed hard. And what shape are we? He smiled faintly. The dangerous kind. They sat there in silence, the waves kissing the shore below. And though she knew she should walk away, she also knew it wasn't over. Because when Dare dropped her off and she turned to wave goodbye, he didn't drive away. He waited, as if he already knew she'd come back. And deep down, she knew she would. It had been 3 days since Tonia checked out of the hotel. 3 days since Dare's eyes followed her from the lobby like a silent promise. She tried to return to her life, to her husband, to her polished world of smiles and schedules. But something inside her had shifted. Each night, she dreamed of rain against glass and of Dare whispering, "Some stories don't end. They change shape." By the 4th morning, she stopped pretending. She packed a small bag, told her husband she was traveling for a conference, and drove back to the Marina Suites. The same marble floor, the same chandelier, and, God help her, the same emptiness that only his presence seemed to fill. When she reached the counter, the receptionist smiled politely. "Welcome back, ma'am. Would you like your usual room?" Her heart stumbled.
Yes.
Room 407. But the woman frowned. "I'm sorry, that room's been out of service for years. Fire damage. It hasn't been reopened since." Tonia froze. "That's not possible. I stayed there last week." The receptionist blinked. "That can't be, ma'am. Room 407 doesn't exist anymore." The words struck like thunder. Her pulse quickened. She stepped back, disoriented. Maybe they were mistaken. Maybe this was some cruel joke. She turned toward the elevator, pressed the button, and rode up, the same familiar hum, the same soft music, until it stopped on the 4th floor. The corridor was eerily quiet. The numbers on the doors gleamed faintly under the dim lights. 403, 405, 409, number 407. Just a blank wall where it should have been. Tonia's throat tightened. Her hand trembled as she touched the wallpaper. The air felt colder here, different. And then, faintly, she heard it, his voice. "Some stories don't end." She spun around. The hallway was empty. Her breath came fast. "Dare," she whispered. Silence. Then, behind her, a single hotel door creaked open, a door she swore hadn't been there seconds ago. A gold plaque glimmered faintly. 407. Her body stiffened. Against all logic, she stepped inside. The room looked exactly as it had that night, bed unmade, curtains half-drawn, rain tapping gently on the glass. Her ring still lay on the nightstand. Her knees weakened. "Dare?" And there he was, standing by the window, shirtless, his back to her, exactly as she remembered. "You came back," he said softly. She took a step closer, tears blurring her vision. "They said this room doesn't exist." He turned, eyes dark, tender, endless. "Maybe it doesn't. Maybe neither of us do. Not in the way we used to." Her heart pounded. "What are you?" He smiled faintly. "A man who loved too much and died in this room. A man who is waiting for someone brave enough to love him again." Her breath caught. "You're saying?" He reached for her hand, warm, impossibly real. "Stay tonight, and you'll understand." She hesitated, staring at their joined fingers, solid, alive, burning. Maybe this was madness. Or maybe love had never belonged to the living. The rain outside grew heavier, drumming like a heartbeat. she whispered, trembling. Just one night? His voice dropped low. One night or forever. And as the door closed behind her, the Do Not Disturb sign swung gently in the empty hallway.